Welcome back to the podcast. I have Brandon Purcell on, who is celebrating the 1 year anniversary of his trip to somewhere in Southeast Alaska. I don't know if I'm at liberty to ruin it, but celebrating that with the release of Tide Swing. It's a Stone Glacier film that will drop on April 20th. So this will be out within a couple of days of that. So thanks for being on here, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on.
I'm supposed to ask you right off the bat here. Jesse said something about you not looking at shrimp the same way again. Is that an inside joke from the trip?
Yeah, I used to think, you just eat shrimp, and then like when you go on the shrimping boat, it's like work. Like the one pull, like we had a huge pull on one of them, and it was like every pot came up just filled, and it was just like, Dan, as soon as we got them all on the boat, Dan was like, all right, time to go to work. And we sat there for like an hour sitting there like shucking tails. I was like, damn,
yeah,
a lot into it.
So you've guided for a while and you've been to Alaska before. So what was it that appealed to this trip for Spring Bear? And then how did you get hooked up? I guess I'll give a little bit of a background. You and Jesse Knock and Dan Peters. How did you get hooked up with this trip and then them?
I've like known Jesse on social media for a while, and I had actually put in for that tag just on a whim, during the Alaska app. So I was like, well, I guess I'll put in for a black bear tag, and didn't really think anything of it, drew it. And then it's kind of like I reached out to Jesse and I was like, hey dude, like, what are your thoughts? And he was pretty stoked on it. And then it just kind of like snowballed eventually to the point of, being like, oh, well, this is going to be like a sick trip.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting hooked up with Dan too, that old boat that he's got is pretty sweet. It's pretty new.
Oh, yeah.
When he ran before that, it was just a 18-foot fiberglass skiff that he'd made a little wheelhouse on, and it was sweet. I fished on that thing a couple of times, but he's just dialed in. Like, he gets it. I mean, he's one of those authentic local type people that you cannot fake. And going on a trip with someone like that is just so much fun, and it just gets so much, I don't know, just depth that you might not have ordinarily if you're trying to do a DIY thing.
Oh, for sure. I felt so lucky to hook up with Dan because like he is like a very authentic Alaskan, probably one of the most authentic Alaskans I think I've ever met. And so it was like to get spend like a week on the boat with him, it was like pretty awesome. It was a pretty great time.
Yeah. How does this compare to, because you've been hunting for a long time and you're a very accomplished elk hunter and everything. How does this compare? Is it something that you can't even look at in the same comparison? Does comparison just kind of dilute things, or where does this one stack up?
I mean, it's hard to like say. It's, Southeast Alaska to me, it's like very special place, like the first time I ever went up to Alaska, I was working in a fishing lodge in Angoon, and so it's like kind of fell in love with Alaska at that point. And then just to be able to go back, but then like in like a hunting capacity was like pretty rad, and then just the like remoteness of like being on the ocean like that, it's pretty outstanding. I can sit here and try to describe it, but there's no way unless you experience it. Like, it's I don't know. I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah. And it's funny when everyone goes up there. I was talking with Mike Merrill a couple months ago on the podcast, and he'd been up in Gustavus fishing. And I thought, all those are great places to be, and I've been to all those places, but I was only there for basketball trips in the winter. So I've seen Angoon in January, and it's not great. I can tell you that. Same thing with Gustavus. Just not awesome. But yeah, once you get free from all that winter stuff and you get there, just the warmth and man, it's so great and so incredible. And there are other states that have great opportunities to do wild things, but up here, just a different level.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like Southeast Alaska has its own like mystique. It's not like mainland Alaska at all. You're in like the straits and like, and like around like Gustavus, around like Glacier Bay and all that, like super sick. That's some of the coolest stuff on earth, like regardless of whether you're hunting it or just there to like go sightsee. I mean, it's like incredible,
Mm-hmm. What was one of the things that this last trip that you took that was different, or something that you were maybe looking forward to outside of just maybe the shrimping?
I think just living on the boat for a week, like I've spent time on boats, but never like overnight and like sleeping and like living on the boat,
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Apparently you didn't have the real experience because you didn't have much rain at all.
No, not at all. It was like the craziest. I've never been to Southeast Alaska and had like continued good weather. Normally it's like you get 1 or 2 days and then it's just like rain. And it's like sometimes it's that rain, it's not even raining, but you're just wet.
Yeah.
We got none of that. It was like I felt so lucky. And like I kept telling Zach, because it was his first time to Alaska, and I was like, dude, you just don't, like, this does not happen. Like we've had like 5 days of like pretty perfect weather, as far as anywhere.
Yeah. Did you see that that affected the bears much? Because I've seen bears that come out midday just to kind of cool off a little bit, or as soon as the sun hits a different side and it creates a shadow, sometimes they'll peek out a little bit. Did that really impact the hunting much, or do you stay after it?
I don't know. I can't really say that it did. I mean, we saw bears like all throughout the day. We saw the most bears at low tide, because I think they get like the most area out there to like kind of rampage around. Whereas when the tide comes way in, it'll even come up into that grass sometimes. So like it didn't seem like they wanted to be out as much at high tide.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess people expect that it's going to be high tide during the day and then low tide in the evenings, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily coincide. Or they think that during the day you're just kind of wasting your time if you're out there. But yeah, they're out there. You can catch them at all times. Was it was it kind of tough to weed through, look at stuff, or were you guys taking your time? Was there pressure? What was that like?
I mean, I think if I would have brought a rifle, things would have been a lot different, But it's like I had pretty much decided just to bow hunt it, and so it's like you get kind of limited there. We did see some really big bears, and like there's a couple situations where it's like we physically could not get any closer without blowing the bear out, And it's just like, well, sweet, It's like, but I mean, I was blown away. I think the first bear that we saw was one of the biggest, and it was huge. And just like the size difference. I've killed and seen some like really big bears at the dirt in Montana, but those bears like just on average are bigger, like substantially bigger.
Yeah. Outside of the whole ocean thing, what's been some of the biggest differences bear hunting Montana from, I'm sure you've done other states too for black bear, but Alaska from lower 48?
I mean, Southeast is definitely different just because like you're hunting them on the beach, when I was in Western Alaska last fall, like that's kind of like mountainous, Alaska just seems to have more bears, period. Like we have a lot of bears here in Western Montana, but like up there, it's just another level,
Do you have the same sort of areas of consolidation? Yeah, if you're hunting in Montana, is it clear cuts? There are certain areas where you just get a lot more bears because you can get those grass fats are where you're going to find them, and then during the fall, it's just find a river with some humpies and you're going to find a whole ton of bears. Do they have that same sort of concentration down there?
I mean, we don't have that like kind of food source that you guys have, like this fish runs and all that. So a lot of times, like it's easier to find bears here in the spring because they're like coming out of their dens. They're in like steeper like canyon country, And then when it comes into the fall, it's like it's not like AK where you can probably go out and like find a bear on any fall day, Like here, it's like they're kind of elusive. They're at weird like elevations, and then like I don't know. Up there, you just have such like with the salmon runs and all that. It's way easier to find them in general,
How many times have you been to Southeast?
I've been to Southeast 3 times. I've been to Alaska like 6 total.
Was it bear each time? Have you done the blacktail and everything too?
No, I've never done blacktail. I've personally hunted black bear, caribou, and moose up there. And
is that the back behind you there in the house? Is that your moose?
No, that's my Shiras.
Okay, I was going to say it looks a little smaller, but yeah, it's still nice.
For sure. No, I was stoked I got to hunt moose last fall when I was up there guiding, like in between guide stints. So
nice. Sweet. Where are you guiding?
We kind of guided all over. We were in the Alaska range, and then we were out in Western Alaska, and then I ended up on a fognack on an elk hunt.
Like it ended up, how did that happen?
Like it was just kind of like Jeremy was like, all right, you're going on an elk hunt on a fognack, and I was like, oh, okay. And it was like like, so Southeast is like wicked calm most of the time, right? The ocean's like pretty small.
Yeah.
We took a boat to a Fognak, and like it's definitely bigger water up there,
Yeah.
like it was kind of squirrely, or at
Yeah.
least for me. The boat captain was like, "Oh, this ain't no thing," and I was just like, "Dude, this is not Southeast."
Yeah. The confidence of the captain makes a huge difference. And that Southeast, there's so many more islands. It's gonna break it down a little bit. You can stay on the lee side of it. It makes a huge difference. But that exposed stuff up there, I've never been up there to Kodiak, but I had some friends that used to live up there, and it's just there's no protection. You were just getting hammered, and it's a whole different deal.
Yep, for sure.
So what do you like about guiding so much that's kept you doing that? Does it ever, people have said you should be a steelhead guide, or you should guide charter fishing. I don't want to, because I want to actually fish, or I want to actually hunt. When you were doing that, you're not actually hunting or fishing, you're helping someone else. But then of course they say, well, why do you teach? And I say, that's probably a good point, because the last thing that people would want to do would be to hang out with high school kids and try to drag them through Lord of the Flies. But what is it about guiding that you really like?
I mean, I just get to go outside and like do pretty cool shit like all the time. It's like especially with like now working up in Alaska, it's like, man, that's so much adventure, and you're getting paid to do it. And it's like at the end of the day, like, does it really matter who's pulling the trigger? I mean, you're still there. You're like conducting the hunt. It's not like you're missing out on opportunity, because you're like, especially like doing stuff like that, like sheep hunts and moose hunts and stuff. It's like you're not missing out on anything.
Yeah.
You're getting to spend so many more days out there, like comparatively. Like I mean, on a stellar season, I'll be out there between spring bear and the fall, like almost 5 months. And then you have a super like other than that, and like the winter, and then like the midsummer, I don't have anything going on. Like I have a lot of freedom with that. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
You work really hard when the season's there, but then you get like a lot of time off.
Yeah. Not to trash on any former customers that might be listening there, but is there a certain type of client that you really prefer, or is it experience, is it enthusiasm, is a little combination of both? But what type of person are you looking for when you're guiding?
I don't know, just somebody who's willing to like cooperate and listen and like have a good time and have like a good mindset, rather than like, it seems like when people show up with a certain like expectation of the outcome, like, dude, it's generally not fun, and those people are like way hard to please. And just, it makes for a long week. But that's like 5%. 95% of the clients you get are great. And then that 5% is just like, dude, this sucks. Because you got to spend like down here that it hunts for only like 5 to 6 days, so it's not as bad. But up there, it's like you get locked into somebody that you don't like for 10 days, like that's gonna suck. Like that is not gonna be fun.
Do you get a level of people who aren't prepared necessarily for Alaska? Because there's people who are used to maybe some storms, and well, it's cold, and I've been in storms before, and I've been wet before, but there can be a different, almost dangerous level of severity or reality to things. Do you find that you have pretty prepared people that come up there for Alaska, or do you have to kind of do a little orientation?
Last year it felt like most of our clients were pretty good that we had one guy that booked a sheep hunt like pretty last minute. There was like a cancellation, and then he bought it, and he bought it with like 2 months to prepare. And like it just kind of came down to like, didn't necessarily have the right gear, definitely was not in like mountain shape. So it was like kind of tough. But everybody else that we had just had a great attitude, and like that pretty much makes the hunt. If you like stoked to be there, it doesn't matter if it's like piss and rain, or it's like, dude, you got to look around.
Yeah. Take me to your first sheep that you had to make a call on as far as double curl. Was it an obvious one? Was it oh my gosh, this is kind of close, but hey, I'm sure, yes, let's do this?
Yeah, that's kind of more the latter there. It was like we were working up actually after these caribou that we'd seen the day before, or like earlier, and there was a big one, probably like, I don't know, upper 300s, like it was a big caribou. And we were on our way to go after that. And actually the client was trailing us and looked up, and he was like, hey, there's a sheep right there. And we look up, and it's like, get the spotter on him, and it's just like, you look at him, and from the front view, it's like, yep. And then from the side, it's like, yep. But then, still, it's like in the back of your mind, you just don't know. Because up there, it's like with the regulations, it's like you want to be sure,
Mhm.
and it's like kind of like, woof. And you're like, oh, it's, like it's just because you don't know how they're going to like tape them. Because I've heard of like some people like whatever. And then other times it's like they're grilling it to within like a 16th of an inch. And it's like, really? It's like, it's clearly full curl, but
Yeah. I've never gone after sheep, but Southeast, it's so expensive to even get up to Anchorage and Fairbanks. So a lot of
yeah,
times when I've had time, I've headed south. I've done some elk in Wyoming, which is a lot of fun. I haven't taken one, but those new experiences are a lot of fun. But I want to go up there for sheep at some point.
for
But
sure.
I want to go with people who really know what they're doing, just because that exact situation. The last thing I want to do is I definitely want to err on the side of caution, where I would not take a shot that was too
Sure.
close, but at the same time, don't want to go through all of that and pass up something that is full curl. If someone who's
Sure.
there would have been able to say, "Oh yeah, this is a good one, take it for sure."
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the shoe gatch tags, those are all like any ram,
Yeah,
but it's like, you'd be like pretty stupid to shoot like a 3/4 curl or something on like that tag.
yeah. What else are you looking at guiding? What's kind of your favorite thing to guide, or that you haven't guided yet that you really want to put people on, or hunt
Um,
first before you guide it?
I really like those moose hunts up there. I mean, just the sheer size of the animal is like insane,
Mm-hmm.
like, insane, and it's like, you've killed a lot of elk, and that, like, man, you put one of those down and like, ooh, that's a chore. But it's still like, it's super cool because you're hunting an animal that's like looks prehistorically large, and that's even in comparison to the shires. And like, shires are big, and like
Yeah.
those, like, especially the Western Alaska moose, those things are giant, like physically.
Mm-hmm. Did you do float hunts, or was it flying? What was that?
It was just like fly in, drop off. So you're trying to kill them pretty close to the strip.
Yeah, I think the two most iconic hunts would be it'd be kind of a tie, that the float moose hunt, or even fly out too, just getting out into that really rugged territory, and then also caribou up on the tundra is just, I
Sure.
mean, it's hard to get more Alaskan than that.
I know, like, I was pretty fortunate. My first time hunting Alaska was caribou. I drew one of the limited entry ones up there, and like, it was such a sick hunt. It lasted like, I got flown in with my wife, and we spotted the caribou that I ended up killing like the night we got flown in. The next day was opening day, and the hunt lasted about like 30 to 45 minutes. It was like a
Nice.
sweet bowl too. Like, it's not like it wasn't just like a caribou. It was like pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty nice. You have always people that have those stories about looking into it, and you have the other people get flown out and then they don't see anything, and then they can't even get picked up because the weather sucks in. Have you had
Sure.
pretty good luck throughout, or have there been a couple of times where things got sketchy with the weather?
Um, I mean, thus far, I haven't had anything too like crazy. I mean, we were in sheep camp for like 18 days, and we had to wait like 2 days to get like pulled out of there because it was just like, oh, not today, and then it was like, not today, and then it's like, all right, they'll be there at 3:30, and we're just like, oh my god, get us out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only had one fly out, and the weather was really good, so we were able to not have to deal with that. But do a lot of hunting down here, just going up mountains, and you get just socked in for blacktail, and you just can't hunt at all. But it's a hike out, and it's then a boat out. But just that up north thing is totally different. Do you find that people are pretty excited about kind of that real authentic experience, or do they really hope that things are really nice, they don't have a good story?
I think most people are pretty excited to be there. I think like sometimes with like the sheep hunts, it's like you're in a lot more aggressive country, and like it can like absolutely like it. I mean, it's intimidating for sure. I mean, you get in there and like those mountains are not friendly looking at all, and it's just like, oof, it's definitely like a mind trip for sure. You kind of got to like set some people straight sometimes, be like, hey man, it's like not like, don't let the remoteness of this like freak you out.
Yeah. Has it freaked you out at all at any point where you're like, whoa?
I mean, at times you got to be like cognizant of it, you know, like you don't want to be taking any unnecessary risks, but at the same time, like, you know, you're not going to experience it unless you put yourself in that situation, you know, and just like, I don't know, there's nothing that beats it, like seeing that super cub like fly away, you know, and you're just like, man, I'm in the middle of it, you know?
Yeah. Do you have to make a read with your clients and thinking, okay, we can go full tilt. This is a 10 out of 10, or it's like, okay, I might have to go 8 because I want to make sure that things are safe because of, and it might even be them, just the conditions. You have to think, okay, we're going to get after it. You're going to get your money's worth, but there might be some things that we can or can't do based on a whole bunch of different variables.
Most of that comes down to the client's ability, you know, and just like their want or drive to do stuff, you know, it's like pretty much the biggest limiting factor in any hunt is just like the client's desire to do it or want to do it. Because I've had people that are super not in shape, and like old guys like had more heart than younger guys, and they'll like stomp up the mountain 3,000 feet, you know, and then like I've had younger guys that like, you know, like peter out after, you know, just a little bit.
What do you recommend for people to get like in mountain shape? Is it, and would you say it's like 50-50 mental, physical? Is it, you know, you might have someone that does a whole bunch of reverse lunges and squats and everything like that, but once they get on the mountain, maybe they don't perform as well. So is there a way to train physically to be prepared, but also train mentally?
I think just spending more time out there, you know, like as much as you can. Doesn't even have to be hunting, just like being in the mountains, and especially being off trail is like huge, because like people can like hike and stuff, but like it definitely is a different ball game when you're all of a sudden like, you know, bombing on a trail, and then you're bombing off trail and like traversing off trail, you know, and like climbing, and like, you know, footing's not predictable. People definitely like break down because they're not like prepared for it. And there's nothing you can do, I don't think, in a gym or anything at home to like replicate that. Like maybe that's to build some like mental toughness of being able to like push through like a bunch of reps, and like that might translate, but I don't know if like the physical stuff does as much. Obviously you don't want to be like a fat ass going into the season, but you know, like you want to, like, it's more mental, I think, than physical for sure.
Yeah. What do you do to get prepared? Do you have like a alarm clock in your head that, hey, we're 2 months out, let's get serious? Or do you pretty much just stay ready all year round?
Yeah, not, I just go into it and just kind of send it, you know, after doing this for, I've like been mountain hunting for like almost like 13 or 14 years now. So it's like, you kind of like stay in shit once you're like, especially guiding, because you're out there every day. It's like, it takes a lot to get out of that shape. I would have to do a lot of serious eating.
Well, you do have the off season. So what do you do during the off season? I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you can go find and still do, but what's the off season look like?
I just mostly ski in the winter, and then like fish in the summertime, you know, do a little bit of fishing guiding and stuff here. Just try to enjoy Montana for the off season, you know?
Yeah. So back to the film that you are in, Tide Swing, which will come out again April 20th. What is it like being on a hunt that's being filmed, and you know this is going to be some big sort of thing? How does that change the whole deal?
It shouldn't, you know, you like think about it and it's like it shouldn't be any different, but it definitely does. It feels like you definitely have a little bit more pressure. That being said, like I've worked with Zach a lot, and like we've filmed a lot of hunts over the last 10 years. So it's not as like bad, or it's not as much of a mind trip as like it might have used to have been. I'm sure for Jesse and Van though, like having the camera there like the entire time, because like Zach's on it, like he will like, he's going to document the entire hunt, which is awesome, because that's what photographers should be doing, is like filming the whole thing. But it can be like, you know, a little rattling, I think, when you're not used to it, of just having like the camera there. And it's, you know, but then you see what the finished product's like, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why he was filming all the time. And like, dude, some of the content we got is insane.
Yeah. Jesse's been, he's done a little bit of filming, so he's pretty good at that. And Dan, I think, has been around it a little bit, so they're good, but they got great personalities for it too. So I'm really excited to see this whole thing here.
For sure, it's going to be great. And it was just like a fun trip, you know, we all had a great time. And from 4 guys that like didn't really know each other at all, like I know Zach, you know, but like the rest of us hadn't like, you know, hung out in a group at all. And then we're just like lost on a boat together for 6.5 days. It was like kind of crazy.
What is kind of if you're going to pick out one attribute of someone that either makes a good client or a good hunting buddy or just someone you kind of want to be around, what would you say that is?
In like the hunting aspect, probably just like determination, because there's a lot of people that like will go out, but they're not super like, they haven't put their mind to it that that's what they're gonna do, and if you can like have people around you like that, like it's gonna push you farther, because then you're gonna like, oh man, I want to crush it too, and just, I don't know, yeah, determination and like just pushing through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was there anything during the trip that was particularly noteworthy that you kind of want to talk about without spoiling it, of course?
I don't know. I think just some of the like cinematography is going to speak for itself. Like some of those nights, like there's a couple of them where it's like you're cruising right at dusk and the ocean's just like a glass, typical Southeast, and it's like sun setting. And I don't know how well that translates into film, but I feel like when you're in the moment, like it feels very surreal. It does not feel like reality. Like when you're on that plane and you're like bombing on the skiff and the water's just, pretty cool. It's pretty special.
Yeah. Does it make it that much better when things do come together, or like, because there's there's gonna be a film, and so if things don't work out the way you want them to, you don't really want to write the story of, well, we went up there and we tried, or did that really not enter your mind because it's Southeast Alaska, there's a ton of bears? Were you pretty much sure that things were going to work out?
You never know. It's hunting. I was like bow hunting, and I definitely like blundered some stuff. As like people will see, it's like I'm not the world's greatest archer, and that's not like, it's a lot harder than it looks. Yeah. Especially on the beach, because you're really confined to like, you got to figure out the wind's doing, and then you only have one approach. It's not like you can like come at something from a different angle. You got one shot, and like definitely I was a little more optimistic at the beginning, and then you're like halfway through it and you're like, man, is this gonna like happen? I don't know. It is what it is. I was more bummed to like leave Southeast Alaska than anything.
Yeah, it's pretty special, especially to be able to do what you did and having like the whole experience. There are a lot of people who come up here and they just fish for 5 days and they have so much fun and it's great. But when you can meet some of the people who are cutting the fish, and get a sense of what the town and the community is like. Same thing with the hunts. Meet some people and do more. It just makes it that much more rich. I make it a point whenever I go down south to hunt or fish to try to just meet some locals and see some of the local vibe and have some of the local food, because it's just different. It adds so much more when you can do more than just one thing.
For sure. Yeah, and that's what's kind of nice about Southeast too, is there's so much, like when you're not, bear hunting, you can be fishing or whatever, it's like an endless bounty down there, it seems like, from like a sportsman's perspective.
Yeah. Did you go into any of the towns?
No, I mean, we were kind of just not really.
Yeah. Yeah, from one airport to the next, and then eventually you end up in the water, and then that's about it. Yeah,
pretty much.
Good. Nice. Well, coming up on an hour here. So what do you got as far as closing thoughts, things to look for, anything about, people getting ready for hunts or whatever you got?
I just hope people enjoy the film. It's pretty sweet. Zach put a lot of effort into it, and we all did our part when we were up there. But I think people are going to be stoked on the cinematography when it comes out. Like, it's pretty top notch.
Yeah. Do you look at what other people are putting out there and think, man, that's really, really good? I wish ours was like that, or our angles are different. How do you, I know there has to be some sort of comparison. Like I'm a freelance writer and I write a column, so I'll read someone else's column back, dude, this is so good. I don't think I could do that, but you have to be yourself. And do you kind of look at what else is out there, and not to like put it on Zach and say, oh, I wish you were better or anything like that. But how much do you look at other people's content for influence, ideas, things like that?
I mean, I don't really have any creative control over the process, Zach's like super talented at what he does, and like we've worked together enough, and I just kind of like trust his vision on what he wants to do. Obviously there's like other people's stuff that's really good out there too, but I think that this is going to be like people are gonna love this, for sure. Like Zach does a great job, and every time we film together, like something cool happens.
Nice. Yeah, I watched that trailer. It looks awesome. Really excited to take a look at it, and that can be where's it's going to be on social media. I'm sure there's going to be a link to it on Stone Glacier's website. We're actually do a final pitch here, and where can you find it when it comes out?
I'm pretty sure it'll be on all the Stone Glacier social media channels. It should come out on the 20th. The trailer's out right now. I'm gonna go check it out. Trailer's a pretty good snippet of the whole vibe of the film.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate you being on here, and enjoy your weekend, and enjoy the memories. I'm sure watching that's going to bring back a bunch of good ones.
For sure, man. Thanks.
All right. See you.